What better day to take a look at what's growing on in December than Thanksgiving? And happy Thanksgiving to you. I am so grateful that you're on this journey with me. I'm so grateful to have you here on the channel. I love your interaction. I love your comments. I love all the things that you guys do to make this a safe and welcoming place for me to be a learning gardener here on YouTube. So today, I want to give my gratitude to you. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I thought it would be really fun on this Thanksgiving Day to walk around and see the things that are growing on. Oddly enough, even with as little input as I have had over the last couple of months, I'm still harvesting food. In fact, yesterday, I harvested yams, and after harvesting them, I learned I shouldn't have, but it was too soon. Apparently, this variety of yams takes a couple of years to get to any kind of decent size, and those have only been in the ground since last summer or summer before last, but they froze over, and so I learned. And that's what happens on this channel. So if you are here looking for this perfectly coiffed, beautiful, well thought out, well laid out garden, you may want to turn around because I kind of have a bit of a hot mess express going on here, and even Babyface would agree. I think that was Babyface. So as we take a tour around the garden today, I want to kind of share with you my dreams for 2024 in the gardening season as we go, because it's going to help me solidify some things, and I want your input. When I share an idea, if you think, gosh, Michelle, that's pretty stupid, or gosh, I really love it, let me know in the comments. It really helps me out a lot. If you want to throw a timestamp on it, that's great. If you want to mention what it's about, that's great too. It's really helpful to me because we are learning and growing together, and my heart is so full. I am so fortunate. I am grateful for my family. I am grateful for the opportunities that I have at work. And to be honest, I have been walking on a cane for a few days, and today I don't need to, so I'm grateful for that as well. And so we're gonna hobble around the garden, and we are going to take a look at what's growing on in November 2023 here in my zone 9B. Wait a minute, we'll come back at the end and talk about the fact that I'm not in 9A anymore at the end of the video. Let's start out here on the porch, because for the first time on this patio, probably since I started this channel, the patio is company worthy. There are no nurseries, there are no extraneous plants. Everything has a place, and I'm kind of grateful for that. So we'll start here. Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and welcome back to my meadow. I'm gardening in zone 9A in Northeast Florida. I'm not an expert gardener, but I love showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and embracing the imperfection that learning to garden has to offer. As we look down the patio, we can kind of see lots of things are still growing over here. In this green stalk, I thought this was kind of funny. There was one tomatillo left growing over in the Vigo raised garden bed, and I just broke it off or pulled it up and just came and threw it in here, and it looks like I may have a shot at getting a few tomatillos from this. I started some cilantro up here, but it looks like this has overtaken the cilantro, and I see a few leaves down there, but definitely the next plan for this is, now that it's cooler, and it's glorious today, y'all, it's 45 degrees and it's perfect. It's not great for seedlings, but I don't have any right now. We'll talk about that too. But the plan for this tower is to go all cilantro, or mostly cilantro, and then some onions. And so these were store-bought onions, and whenever I get onions that they go bad or whatever, I just snip the ends off of, and I come and shove them into the green stalk, and I can come back out and harvest the greens for a while, and then eventually harvest an onion out of there. For the dragon fruit, I'm kind of excited about this because I added some of the Magic mix. That's a local soil mix that I picked up, and it's already looking greener down at the bottom. It's even looking greener now out on some of these stems. I think we're going to go ahead and trim it back and give it another haircut before winter. My understanding for this is you really don't want this to be more than 2 feet, because you don't want to end up way down here trying to harvest dragon fruit. So I think we're going to give those a little cut here, and probably not going to do any more fertilizing this winter. We just wanted to top off the soil, and we put a good mix in there, and it's already starting to green up a bit. Back over here, we just have some more cactus. This one's been with me for a long time. In fact, I've probably had this cactus, no, not probably, I have had this cactus here longer than any other plant. We brought this when we moved in from our condo. And down there are some leftover dragon fruit. I'm going to show you some more about that in a minute. But I purchased some dragon fruit from a CVS. They had them for Valentine's, and then we separated them out, and so I have some growing in bags, and those were the ones that were left over. Of course, the feral cats, who are not very feral anymore, have their warm accommodations complete with a heating pad, y'all, because, you know, we want them to be safe and warm and dry. Now, I've shown you this grill before. If you've been on the channel for a while, you know that my sweet neighbor, who I'm also grateful for, gave me this grill, and it's time to put a new cover on it. But I am thinking with the tink tube about building a retractable shelter for it so that I can easily flip it over, uncover it, and recover it. So if you have any thoughts on that, I would love your thoughts. And we're probably going to move it, instead of being right here in the center, we're probably going to take and move it down to the end of the patio there and sort of open this space up just a little bit more. I'm sure that more plants will land in there. Here we have 2 of our birdies' beds. Oops. These are the patio base beds. They are still sitting in their base. There was a challenge with that at first, but we got that figured out. This is going to be onions and Asian greens here. Next week I'll be planting this out now that things are a little bit cooler. And I like, with it being right here on the patio, I can easily come out and cover it up and give it some warmth and help it grow. But I am going to try direct sowing right in this bed. Our second dragon fruit over here is looking really good. The same thing. It needs a little trim, but it greened up a little bit. It was looking kind of sad for a while. And I finally figured out what is making all these holes in the dragon fruit. What is doing all of that? Snails. Snails are eating the dragon fruit. You would think that's not possible, but they maneuver around the little spiky parts, and they do. During my last garden tour, I talked about having a bunch of potatoes that had chits on them. And we actually, that wasn't a garden tour, it was during one of our lives, and you all encouraged me to just plant them, don't worry about it. And look what I got. I got potatoes growing. And of course I have the zombie cat sort of protecting it because the cats thought this was a place for them to lay. You can see how that one's all smashed down. They seem to think that this is a perch for them out here. But we have potatoes growing. I don't know how many we'll get, it doesn't matter. We have potatoes growing. And speaking of nightshades, we also have tomatoes growing. Earlier this year, when we had to move some of that area over there, I cut back some of the tomatoes and just came and shoved them into this green stalk. And we have tomatoes, and we have a flush of tomatoes down there. That's kind of exciting. And we also have all of this Asian basil. This is a Thai basil. All of this was propagated from restaurant basil. If you've ever gone to eat pho, they bring you basil to eat with your pho. And so we bring it home and stick it in the ground, and then as I cut it back, I stick more in. And so my goal is to make this tower all Thai basil. And as I'm getting seeds on them, I am pulling off the seeds and throwing it down in there. But kind of excited. In fact, let's have a little morning snack. Still sweet. Oh, and it's cold, so it tastes like it's been in the refrigerator. Yum. Yum. Might as well pick the second one up here. Put that in my pocket for a second. Yeah, that broken chair is still here. I am going to fix that chair because the rest of it's just in too good of a shape. Now, the mint has not really been thriving. It's not gotten the water that it needs. And there's a lot of weeds in here. I kind of laughed. Somebody said, you can't kill mint. Well, apparently I can. So I didn't even have to try. One of the new things I added to the garden this year are these grow bags. They were provided by Epic Gardening for us to do some tests. And I up-potted my peppers, and I'm going to overwinter that pepper plant. Here we have a calamansi that I up-potted from the store container. I'm going to bring you in closer, but I want to point right here. We have an itty bitty hand or two of bananas, and it's already started dropping the male flower, so it's only going to be a tiny amount. But maybe, just maybe, we can get a few out and protect them from freezing weather. In this bed is where I dug up the yams. And yams and sweet potatoes are not the same thing. If you ever need to know more about that, I have a blog post on it. So I did make the decision, the debris that I took out, I am just going to bury back in the bed. The old yams that were in bad shape, I'm going to bury back in the bed, and let's see if we can grow some more yams from that. I also saved some cuttings, so I'll be able to actually root these and plant them as well. These were supposed to be my Thanksgiving sweet potatoes, but they needed to cure for 2 weeks, and I forgot to dig them up a couple of weeks ago. So we don't have sweet potatoes for Thanksgiving, but I am going to take that little bit of yams and try to make something tasty this morning. Over here, you may wonder why in the world I would let all this Biden's alba keep on growing. Well, this is officially the wildflower spot of this part of the garden so that we have something for the pollinators. I want to make sure that we support them because, gosh darn it, I'm thankful for them and they support us. And so I am really excited to have this growing here. And then I just cut it back and we kind of keep it to this general area. And it's okay. We have to have pollinators in the garden or we can't grow food. Now here we have, oops. Now, I'm excited about this. This is a fun experiment for me. So we have bag A and bag B, and we are growing sweet potatoes in here. They started with equal size slips. We're gonna dig them up. I originally said 100 days. I'm probably gonna go 140 days, maybe 120 days, somewhere in there, because they got off to a bad start. When I transplanted them, I forgot to amend the soil, so I basically put them in dead dirt. And so just a couple of weeks ago, I came back through and amended the soil, and since then they've tripled in size. But here's what the experiment is. I want to see if trimming back the vines makes a difference. So this bag B, I am going to let the vines go and grow as long as they can. In bag A, I am going to start cutting them back now that they are reaching out the sides of the bag. And so I am going to start trimming them back. I am not going to let them go and grow and propagate down. So basically my goal will be to keep them the equivalent of the top. And as soon as they get long enough to really start hanging down, I'm going to start trimming them back. And so maybe about every 10 days or so, I'll trim those back. This is our lemongrass, and it grows on its own little secret watering system. Behind here, we actually have, behind this wall is our hybrid hot water heater. And with that hot water heater, it has a condensate line. And so every day, this gets a little bit of water and drips a little bit of water. And being up against the house, it also gets some protection. So I like having this, even though it's a tropical plant, because it has this protection of the house and regular and consistent water, it is done really, really well. And it is time to separate it out some more so we can keep on growing lemongrass here. This is comfrey. It's time for it to be trimmed back as well. Once a quarter, I try to take the leaves out and use them in fertilizing and composting. And I really like how it looks when it's flowering too. This is a sterile variety and it can be separated by its roots, and I would love to just finish adding in more comfrey along here just to give us something lovely that's growing that creates a great space for the pollinators and gives us fertilizer for the garden. The tabby bua tree, which is one of our non-food bearing trees in the garden, but something that Mrs. Michelle wanted, is looking really, really good. Last winter it got eat up pretty good. I see some rust here on the leaves, but I'm not going to sweat that. What I do see that I'm excited about is I see buds, which means we have a good shot at having flowers this year. This actually flowers in February, which means it is not meant for our zone, by the way. It's too cold here, but she really, really wanted it, and they sell it here. But it means that we are gonna have to cover it up if we want to protect those. I am very likely going to use aside from the frost cloth, I am going to add out here an incandescent spotlight that has some heat to it so that we can build a little tent over it and keep it warm. I don't like to have many things that need that much love and care, but she cares about this and I care about her, so we're gonna take care of it. Up front here, I'm kind of excited. My pansies are looking good. I wanted to do those all around the border. I planted them about 8 inches apart. I actually have a video about that. I don't think I ever made that for the channel, where I planted all these in. And for Thanksgiving, we've just left the pumpkins, but sometime today or over the weekend, we're gonna start transforming this into a Christmas scene and have a little fun with that. So I see something really interesting here. I'm not sure how close I can get into it, but here in the front, we have been adding in mulch for a couple of years, and over the summer we added mulch, and then this past fall we added some more mulch here. But I spy with my little eye something that looks like a loquat tree. That looks an awful lot like loquat. Let me know in the comments if you agree. This guy right here. And Mom has loquats growing everywhere at her house, so it's incredibly possible that some of the mulch we got from Mom's had loquat in there, because she's got about 20 loquat trees, so that's kind of fun to look over and see a loquat. I also have what I thought was a peach tree growing here, right here, but now I'm not so sure. Those leaves don't look the same. Underneath the peach tree, I intentionally planted some sweet potatoes. My goal was to sort of cover this area with ground cover of different kinds to add in some mulch and shade for the different trees here in the fruit guild. The peach tree has been hit by the lawn guy a few times. This branch has got to come off. And I was waiting until it got cold, until it was fully dormant, lost its leaves, before I did any trimming on the peach tree. My other friend said it really has character based on how it leans over. I just thought I was a bad gardener. So I'm gonna go with the character point, don't you think? The other thing that's happened here is the sweet potatoes are going to flower, and I don't know, I've never collected sweet potato seeds, but I saw Jack from Geeky Gardens talking about sweet potato seeds. So I may give that a try and see if I can collect the seeds and see if anything comes of it. But I have grown and eaten sweet potatoes from this area. They tend to come back. In fact, I didn't plant any new ones this year. This is growing from whatever was here before. So if you have any tips on collecting seeds from sweet potatoes, I would sure love them. I think that'd be kind of fun. Now, I talk about this salvia bush all the time. It won't survive the winter, but apparently it will be back. We planted this tree, or this plant, 3 years ago, and it was originally planted here, and it falls over and re-roots every year, and so it's gone that way. I may try to see if I can route it back this way, because now it's encroaching much further in than I expected, but I just love it here. The pollinators love it up here. I really try hard to have something for the pollinators all over the yard. I don't see anybody right this minute, but I'm gonna grab some footage. I had a hummingbird moth out here the other day, and it was really kind of fun to see that flying around. We swing around the front here. Here is my latest project, Pride and Joy. This is the Asian wing bean with a round trellis. And you guys asked for some more details on this, and I'll be more than happy to give them. But basically, I have it mounted. There's a little plate behind there. These posts are from Tink Tube, and they were provided by Tink Tube. Thank you very much. And then I made 2 half circles and connected them together. I used some self-tapping screws to secure it, and then I used the screws that came with it in order to make everything solid. On 4 of the posts, I used a sort of T adapter here. And I am really excited about how this turned out. I didn't do the best job in hanging this string trellis, but once all the beans are over it, you'll never know. And this is what an Asian wing bean looks like. In fact, I'm gonna pick a few of these for the table today for Thanksgiving dinner. They just have the most beautiful flowers, just like the other peas. They just have beautiful flowers. Look at here. We might have enough for a very small taste, but every little bit fills our belly, and we are grateful. In the middle, I didn't talk about this before, I added in this water bucket, put a cover on it. So when I water this plant, while I can just water it in, I can also add some additional water to that bucket and get 5 gallons. And it takes about 10 or 12 minutes for it to slowly dump out, but gives it a nice slow feeding of water and gives it a chance to sort of soak in. Over here, our plums are not looking so plum. When I check them, they're still green, so that's a good sign. But I think the stress of the heat of the summer really affected them, and they need to get a good little trim now that we're in dormant season for them. And I see here actually, oh my gosh, hooray, a little leaf, but now I gotta follow it down. Now I have to look and see which one's the real one and which one's below the root. I think this is the rootstock here. This is rootstock here. And it has flowers and it has leaves on it as well, but this is off of the original plant. So I need to cut that rootstock back and maybe try to root it, because if it's a good rootstock, I might be able to use it for something else. Now, the figs have tried putting on a second bunch now that the weather cooled back a little bit. Lost all its leaves, but is still trying to make figs, which was kind of funny to me. The persimmon tree is looking lovely. All the persimmons have been harvested. We got a delicious, somewhere close to 20 pounds of persimmons off of the tree. So I'm really grateful for that. And this is the Asian kitchen garden. And so far I've planted 2 things. We have basil growing here. We have a few weeds. Some sweet potatoes are revisiting from being planted in this area before, being in the soil before. And I have ginger over in that area. Now this is another one of our peach trees, and same situation. It had a lot of trouble in the heat, but let me see if I can get in close here. Check this out. Can you see the buds? So that's interesting. All is not lost here. All is not lost on that one. Our second fig tree kind of looks in the same state. Almost all the leaves are gone, but there are figs on it. So time will tell how that turns out. I also see some sweet potatoes down there and some beans. If you ever want a persistent perennial crop, sweet potatoes, beans, and things like that, they just will keep on growing. In fact, over on this side, I didn't grow sweet potatoes here at all this year. In fact, I covered all of this with cardboard and mulch, and the sweet potato vines found their way through. And I thought, boy, it probably helps keep out some of the other weeds. So even if I don't have sweet potatoes under there, I have this nice green cover up against the house. It needs to be trimmed back a little bit, but that'll happen in the winter. Mother Nature will do that for me. Then I can clean up the vines and throw them into the compost. After making plans for my Asian kitchen garden, I decided I'm gonna make this also an Asian kitchen garden because I can't grow everything I want in a single bed. So I'm gonna use this bed for that as well. Now, let me show you something else. Back up over here. The big push for 2024 on this side of the garden is to get some sort of irrigation system set up for every single bed. Now, on this one, I do have the Garden in Minutes watering system. This is a garden grid. It's on a square foot system. And if you haven't seen my video about this, I have one called World's Fastest Drip Irrigation for Raised Garden Beds. I'll be sure to put a card or a link to it somewhere, maybe down in the description. But it only took a few minutes to actually set this up. Now, it's kind of pricey, but it took 5 minutes. I have spent about a half hour or more trying to figure out the parts to build my own drip irrigation system. And when I get to that phase, I'm gonna bring you guys along with it because I think it's really interesting. It's often about whether you have enough money or enough time to do things. And when you are low on money and you don't want to spend as much money, then certainly you can DIY stuff. But sometimes when you're in a hurry, things like this make sense too. I do know for Black Friday, just to throw that out there, they are having a 20% off sale at Garden in Minutes. And so if you want to check that out and you were thinking about it, now would be the time to do that because 20% is some real coin. This year, the olive tree has really put on growth. We haven't had an olive yet, but it's kind of fun to see it starting to fill in and grow up there. So that's going really, really well. Over in this area, we have some of the leftover soil that's going to be in the next garden bed that's going over here. But first, I have to figure out how to get those T-posts out of the ground. So I think I'm going to use a car jack to do that. And then I have a bed from Garden in Minutes and a full irrigation system that will go on there. So it'll be kind of fun to be able to look at the full Garden in Minutes system here, a drip irrigation here, a Garden in Minutes system over there, just to see how the different irrigation works for the garden beds. This is a raccoon casualty. The raccoons broke off. That's all I can figure. It might have been something else. I didn't see it on camera, but they completely broke off my moringa. And I just left it here out of sheer disgust and aggravation. But I have another moringa that I can plant here. So all is not lost. Over here is our Cataly guava. It's getting some new growth on it. I definitely need to protect these a little better this year. The frost we got last year really hurt them, and we ended up not getting very much fruit from any of them. And so I want to be sure to protect the ones that are on the sides from the frost this year. Now, over on this side of the garden, this is sort of our Vego or Vigo, I understand it's Vego like Lego, garden bed. So we've added in this new 4-in-1 garden bed here. Of course, that was a Vigo round up at the front. I've got an extra Garden in Minutes grid that's going to go into the Vigo bed that's right behind there as well. And so it's kind of fun being able to grow and compare and see these different things. In fact, let me come down to this other bed here and show you. While I don't have very much planted, here in the corner of this bed, we are growing galangal. I want to harvest this out of this bed. I didn't know if I needed to wait until it was done flowering, and then take and plant this down in the Asian kitchen garden bed. Originally, I talked about putting ginger and galangal in opposite corners. I think what I may do is, now that I have two beds, I may actually put one bed with ginger and one bed with galangal so I can remember what I planted somewhere. Of course, it's easier to tell on the galangal than it is to tell between, say, turmeric, because the galangal has sort of a purplish root. Let's see if I can pull one up. Hang on. Well, I say a purplish root, but that doesn't seem to have that. I was really sure this was galangal. Now maybe with the season. Oh yeah, there's some of the pink and purple right in there. So, of course, now that I broke this off, I might need to bring it in and make me some tea this morning. Ooh, that sounds good. I haven't had galangal tea. I've had ginger tea before. I think that's what I'm going to do. So much for getting some gloves. I didn't even put them on. I didn't even think about it. I never think about it before I stick my hands in the soil. This area here is another one of our pollinator gardens. We try to plant as many natives as we can, and I'm going to put some native wildflowers through here because I definitely love having all these different areas around the garden. And I can see in the back, I throw out bean vines, so I can see the beans are coming up back there. I've sort of used this back in the back as a ground level composting system. So I take a lot of the vine, sweet potato, and beans, and I just put them there. And I figure if the beans grow there and they regrow there and we mow them over every once in a while, all we're doing is adding some fertility to the soil. It's not hurting anything. And we keep that waste out of landfills too. Now, over on Orchard Row, I haven't really talked about this plan over here very much, but I want to show you guys. First off, I got somebody new. We have a new visitor, actually a new guest, a new resident. There we go. This is a variegated pink lemon. It was on the clearance rack at Walmart, and I just had to bring it home. It was 15 bucks, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's just in beautiful shape, and this will give us one more variety here in the garden. Now, I set it out here because on Orchard Row, my goal is to get these beds filled in and to grow my primarily citrus fruit back here. Now, the reason for the raised garden beds is this soil back here is very clayey and very gooey, and the water doesn't drain really well. So I thought having the raised garden beds would give these plants, which all have been growing in grow bags anyway, a fair shot at really trying to grow. The other thing that I'm kind of excited about this, and I discovered this last year, and let's see if we can look up. We are under the canopy here of the trees, and you may worry that they don't get very much sunshine, when in fact, once the sun gets over the trees there, and in the winter it doesn't have to go over the trees because all these trees are bare, we actually get easily in the winter 6 or 7 hours of sunshine here, and then during the summer, the sun is over at 9 and it has sun back here until 8 in the evening. And so it gets a nice 11 hours. So plenty of sunshine back here. The raised beds will give us a nice little contained area. I still have to figure out some of the placement. Like, I'm worried that this might get too tall and it's a problem for the hummingbird plant. This is a pomegranate tree. I might swap them and keep this sort of much lower. But the goal totally is that I will keep all of these in a manageable height. My goal will be not to have to get on a ladder, maybe a stool, but not a ladder to do any of the pruning. Oh, buds, new buds. So there's still lots to do out here. Ultimately, I plan to pin all of these together and screw them together in a way that it basically looks like one long bed. And having the straight sides and the corners make it possible to do that. As we work our way down, we have some Myers lemon, we have some more limes growing here. These are blueberries, and they're gonna get trimmed back. They need to be trimmed back for the winter now. I have 2 different varieties. I have 2 of the bigger ones that have been here for a while. And then down here I have 2 other varieties, but they're all in the same flowering time. With blueberries, if you don't know, there's early, mid, and late. And so if you need them, you need a second plant to cross-pollinate. It needs to be of a different variety, and it needs to flower at the same time. What I might do is swap it around and put one of the big ones in this side and one of the small ones over there and see how that looks. Now, right here, we have our loquat. These are all grown from Mom's yard, from seedlings that we just plucked out of her yard. These are the 4 that have survived, aside from the one that we just discovered up front. Over there we have pawpaws, and I gotta tell you, the pawpaws are not looking very good. I don't know if it's been too much heat, too much cold, too much neglect. You have a much better shot in my garden if you can thrive on neglect, but we're gonna see how those pawpaws turn out. Back in the back, we have elderberry and beautyberry, which the cardinals have been really enjoying. And here is also an elderberry tree that I planted when we first moved in here. Here we have a navel orange. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's Myers lemon, navel orange, Eureka lemon, tangerines. Look at this, y'all. I'm so excited. And we had this nice cold today, so it won't be very long before we can pick some of these. I see one down at the bottom, looks pretty ripe. We have mulberry, we have longevity spinach. I have another Cataly guava back there that got sort of moved out of Orchard Row. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with that one. Now, I'm gonna back up here just a little bit so you can see this. So my goal with the garden beds out there is to, 1, level them and make them kind of look like one long garden bed, like a little pony wall. But 2, I want them to line up with the stairs here. And so I'm trying to get it, I'm restricted by the elderberry unless I were to cut it down. I tried putting the elderberry within the bed, that did not work. These beds are no longer available in the United States, but I wanted the center walk-through. I wanted to be able to walk through back to the wood pile. I didn't want to just make it straight across, but I also want it to eventually be wide enough. The loquat won't stay there. I want it to be wide enough that the lawn guy can get through with the mower, both here and over on the right-hand side, because that's really important to me that he can get through there when I do want to get the meadow mowed, which is a few times a year. Back over here, I am trying out if I like how these little half moon barrels look sitting over here. Plant Obsessed said I could make more worm bins out of them. I could plant lettuce in them. They get shade part of the day, so that's not so terrible. But I kind of like how they look sitting there. And I got a new present for my birthday. It's not fully put together yet, but I'm gonna show it to you anyway. Hang on. Mrs. Michelle bought me some stairs, and I still have to pull the blocks out with my knee. I wasn't ready to start yanking on blocks, but it's pretty cool. It's got the handle, and there's actually a second set, so we'll have 2 sets. Only one set will have the handle probably, or we may put the handle on the outside. It will impact how those line up, and I'm gonna have to bury it in the ground just a little bit so that it clears, but it's gonna be kind of nice to have a nice set of good stairs to step in and easily move in and out of the garden shed, or the garden studio, as I like to call it. Y'all don't want to see the rest of the garden studio. It's still a mess. Man, what a summer. I don't know, has it been crazy like this for everybody, or is it just me? I have gotten some other things cleaned up since my last video. For now, we are gonna put the pineapple guava right here at the corner of the garden studio. That's not gonna be its permanent home, but I gotta figure out where exactly I want to put it. And having it here means it'll be a little easier to protect it as things get colder. Some things are happening over here on the potting bench. I actually am all set up. I'm gonna be shooting another video comparing the different kinds of trays. And so this is just a store tray that you get. You can buy these with the little greenhouse kits. This one is from Bootstrap Farmer. And this one, oops, this is the new tray from Epic Gardening. And so it's got some nice ridges under the bottom. These are some of the seedling trays from Epic Gardening. So keep an eye out for that video coming soon. Now, during Black Friday on day number 3 for Epic Gardening, which would be on Sunday, their seed starting and trays are going to be 30% off. And so you'll be able to save some money on the seed starting, the trays, and the grow bags too. Now, one of my last tours, someone wanted to know how the rosemary was doing. So I've gotten all of the tomatoes cleaned up over here. Everything's looking sort of empty, but cleaner. There's the rosemary. I had 3 little up pots of rosemary at the beginning of the season, and they've done really well hiding over here in the shade. And so I'm kind of excited about that. They are looking really good, and I think I can take those and now propagate some more. Check out this ginger over here. Last year, I soaked some ginger that came from the store, and then I planted it in a grow bag down here. And so I am 5'7", so it's not quite 6 feet yet, but it's almost taller than me on some of the tallest bits. And it's sort of been protected back here against the fence, so it's gotten plenty of sun, but it's sort of been in a protected area. So it'll be really interesting to see how this keeps on growing. I'm going to keep an eye on it until we start getting brown leaves, and then I'll worry about harvesting it and separating it. In another video this week, I showed you guys the original garden beds, the legacy garden beds, versus the next generation of the Birdies raised garden beds. And you all weighed in and you said, this is just too close. So I need to rethink it, because you're right. You guys mentioned spacing, the ability to put in a trellis, the concern about plants falling over into the other beds and sort of commingling and making it hard to gather and harvest the vegetables once they're growing. And so I'm taking all that to heart. The challenge that I've had is I did not want to block this here, but maybe I have to. Maybe I put 2 beds over this way and 1 bed this way so that I can get that 3-foot clearance. I may get some help and move them around and check that out, but I've been thinking about it, and you're right, I do need that 3 feet, because it's just not going to be enough to do any of the things I want to do. And if I could do 4 feet, then I would have enough room to actually put a arched trellis between some of the beds. And so one of the challenges with this for me occasionally we get things delivered by truck, and I'm trying to make sure we can still have a path here that the truck can get through. We've got 10 feet here, a little more than 10 feet. And so as a truck comes around this corner to make a delivery or something, because we get truckloads of dirt, I still need to make sure that we have at least 10 feet here where they can get through. Right now it's really nice because back there they can put their nose in and then back around the yard. You know, with the garden beds almost done, we may not need that in the future, but I've still got all those to fill, and I've still got these to fill. And so that is my dilemma there, because this is fixed. And maybe I just have to deal with it and shape it a little differently. Of course, I do have, now that's there. I do have this space here. What if I ran them all this way? But that's still infringing on that 10 feet. When the fellow came out and backed in that garden studio over there, it blew my mind. He literally had 3 inches extra clearance through here. He ran over just a tiny bit of my steel edging here. It didn't hurt it, but I was impressed that he could move that big old building all the way through the yard. If you are thinking about adding a Birdies raised garden bed to your garden and you want to take advantage of the Black Friday sales, these are the legacy beds, or the original version. They are going to be on sale up to 40% off on Black Friday, and you can use my coupon code Meadow to take another 5% off of your order. If you would click through my link that I'm going to put in the comments below and in the description, that really does help support our channel. But if you're thinking about upgrading to the newest version, On Monday, Cyber Monday, there will be a sale, 20% off with the coupon. In my last video, I forgot there was a coupon, and that coupon code is EPICMonday20. And you can get right to the website by going to michelleinthemeadow.com/epic. So on Cyber Monday, you're going to save 20% on these beds and actually everything on the website. Black Friday, up to 40% off of these. Now, I've got a couple more things to show you here. Hey, it's kind of cleaned up. We've got a betel, we've got a kaffir lime and a key lime, along with some more Cataly guava back in the urban edition of the Birdie's bed. Over here, we have our prickly things back in the back, so some blackberry and raspberry. This avocado tree that came out of the compost bin, I'm still so fascinated by that. So I can't wait to see how this one grows in. In the spring, I got this 1 gallon pot. This is an African blue basil. It is an edible basil, but it has more of an anise flavor, a very licoricey flavor, but it really just has gone crazy. I up-potted it into this container. Oh wait, check this out, y'all. This little guy's taking a nap in the basil. Can you see him? Taking a little nap. The pollinators absolutely love this basil. They told me that it's a sterile basil, that it will not grow from seed, but a strange thing's happened over here. I noticed there is basil here. Now maybe this is different. Oh yeah, this is my Thai basil. So some Thai basil's coming up in the bottom of the kaffir lime. That's appropriate since I use them both for Thai dishes. And then I told you guys I would show you this. This is the dragon fruit nursery now. I separated some plants and then I put these in their own little bags. One of them is really starting to show off here. But I'm kind of excited to see if these dragon fruit will actually produce some fruit. This was from a store-bought dragon fruit plant, dragon fruit cactus that we bought at Valentine's this year. So it's been, 10 months since we did this, and I haven't really taken tremendous care of them. Again, you got to be able to thrive on neglect in my garden. And finally, over here, we have Audrey's Palace, as we are now calling it. So we have the leftover loofah that was harvested that still needs to be processed. I've got the yams that are going to be rerooted. Over there, that sure looks like garlic. So I think an old garlic bulb is coming up, which is weird. So it must be a garlic that I did not pick and now is sprouted 3 times. I'm gonna just let that be and see what grows there. We've got taro here. And of course, when I harvested the loofah, I ended up with all these loofah seeds all over the bed. And so I've got little loofahs growing everywhere now in the bed. And I reckon it's okay for now. We'll figure it out. Back in the back here, I finally have green peppers. I'm gonna pick a couple of these for Thanksgiving dinner. With the trellis covered over, they did not do well during the summer, but as I had hoped they would, winter is a different story for them, and we'll see how they continue to grow. I do need to show you one other thing over here though, and of course we've got more ginger or galangal planted here. I just throw this stuff in the ground wherever I'm standing. It's good, but it's bad because I don't remember what it is. Come around to this side. I don't come around the back very often, but I put these little spiky things in here to try to keep Babyface out of the garden and from sleeping back here, because this is why this one leans over, is she would sleep and lean on this plant and it leans. Well, I'm assuming a raccoon, came in here trying to get into the food that's in the sub pod, because we have a lot of air holes now because the soil has really, really settled. When we originally planted out this bed, it had a lot of logs and debris underneath. And so I refilled this bed this year, but it dropped another 4 inches, and then it was low enough for us to have some subpod smells, I suppose. Not bad smells, but I think that the raccoons have dug that out. Lucky me. My coffee got cold, but that's all right. So I promised you that if you stuck around to the end of the video, we would talk about this change in growing zone. I was in zone 9A, and now I am officially in zone 9B. Honestly, that is going to change nothing that I am doing here. These zones are set up based on multi-year averages of the low temperature. But the average low temperature does not mean that you won't have days that are colder than that. So moving me to zone 9B means that my average low winter temperatures meet that criteria. But it does not mean that I won't have days that are 24 degrees. In fact, last year we had a 24-degree day. I did not protect the avocado, which I walked right past today and didn't show you guys. And in fact, hang on, let's go look at that real quick. This avocado tree it's cold hardy. It will handle the temperatures, but last season we had freezing temperatures after it got its buds, and this is what happened to the buds. And so we got almost no avocados this year. In fact, we only got 1 avocado. The other 3 the raccoons got. Lucky us. Now, we do have another big plan for this avocado tree. Now that it is getting cooler, I am actually going to dig it up. I'm going to dig it up, and I am going to move it right here. And so the idea is that it will be a little out of the way here. It will still get water and sunshine and all the things it needs. But with the way the garden has grown after planting this, this is not the optimal place for it anymore. And so that said, me changing from 9A to 9B does not mean that this couldn't happen again. And in fact, I have to be sure this season to put some Christmas lights. I have some old ones that are the incandescent and warming lights. I have to put those on. What the heck? Y'all, is this a crazy season or what? That's an avocado. Holy moly. And look, more buds right there. These plants just don't know what to do with all this crazy weather. All they want to do is grow. That is what they want. So it's never going to be a better time to move it. And so this is going to be the season that I do that. It may mean that I don't get avocados this year. It could really impact all these fresh buds that I see on here. But I want to do it during the colder season so it should have less shock and should be easier on the plant. So whether I'm in 8B, 9A, or 9B, it tells me in general what I can grow during the coldest months, but it does not mean that I won't have months that are even colder or days that are even colder. It only takes one hard freeze to kill some plants. And so if your zone has changed, don't take that to mean that you can just disregard any of your low temperatures that you've had. I mean, my 24-degree day was last year, and out of a 90-day season, 1 or 2 days at 24 degrees, when we also had some 70-degree low temperatures in the winter, you can see how that sort of skews things a little bit. But it is a good guide, it is helpful, and really the thing that you have to do is learn what works in your garden. For me, for instance, Orchard Row is probably a true 9B. I didn't even get frost on the plants out there last year. That canopy cover really creates a microclimate there. The Cataly guava that grows on either side of the house, those both got sniped by the freezing temperature pretty badly. In fact, we didn't have any fruit at all from either of the plants that I did not cover well last year. So My goal in the garden is to be as lazy as I can. You can't always be lazy, but I really do like the Catalina guava. So I need to protect it from the freeze. I need to protect the avocado from the freeze. I want to do what I can to protect Orchard Row from freezing temperatures. But that doesn't happen all the time here in zone 9/B, 9A/B, 9B, 8B, wherever I am. But you guys have been great. If you want to check out more of the deals that are starting for Black Friday, you can take a look at this video over here. And until next time, my friends, remember to drink plenty of water, wear that high quality sunscreen, eat lots of really good food today, and have a fantastic day. I am so grateful for you, and thank you for all that you do to support this channel and my family. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.